Alright, so I showed you a couple advanced ways to do some texture work. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you some easier ways to do basic texturing work. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Photoshop, and for now what I'll do is I'm going to group these and call this projection texturing. Oop. Maybe I'll keep the background there for now. Anyway, I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm just going to hide everything on this layer. And the only thing I really do want is the UVs. So what I want to do is I'm just going to copy that. Alright. Delete the background. I don't really need it. And from here, I'm actually going to create a duplicate of this too, and keep this as my bottom layer, and this top one will be a screen. So I set this layer to be a screen, UVs, and UV background. And I'm just going to really go through some simple ways to do this. Now, one of the things you can do is just by brush tool. Okay. So just by coloring in some of these things. So since I have, you know, the jeans on or something, I'll go with like a blue, give or take something like something like that, I guess. Maybe a little bit lighter. And really, I'm just gonna basically go around and trace. Doesn't need to be perfect. You just got to make sure that you get over the lines that you need, the UVs. Okay, and then fill it in. One of the things I like to do is after I fill it in, I'll just go through and just do this quick little outline work to go through. You can go ahead and press the paint bucket tool twice, but it increases the size slightly. Depending on how close your UVs are, it can really start to bleed into other textures or other UV shells, and you don't want that to happen. So I just simply kind of do an outline, and then I guess I could have used a hard brush. That might have helped, but I didn't. Another thing I like to do, in this particular case, I don't really need to do any layer masking. And I'll do a new layer. But we will do some clipping, and I'll show you what I mean by that as soon as I'm done with doing these jeans. Clipping is a technique that will we're going to overlay some photo reference textures. I'm just going to give you a few examples. And we'll overlay some photo reference textures, but we'll clip them so they don't bleed into any other layer except for the one that we're currently using with it. So this again is a... Now I recommend the projection texturing techniques, but this is always a good way also to sort of get started, and you can get some nice final touches with it. So we're just going to manually draw this in, and then right here in just a moment, oh, I got this all on a separate, on the same layer, so I'm going to change that here in a second. Alright, so there's the jeans. What I'm going to do here with the jeans is I will, I'm going to first off start by cutting this one off. Control C, or Control X actually for cut, and then new layer, and Control Shift V. Control Shift V is paste in place. Alright, so pant leg 1, pant leg 2. Ooh. And I'll just call this lower pant torso. Alright, so what I'll do is I'll open up my jeans fabric here. I'm going to copy it and then go back to my diffuse map, and then I'm going to just paste it in, and from here I'm going to run a quick little rotate just to sort of get it to fit, something like that. And then, oop, still doesn't fit. Something like so. Okay, so that covers my entire pant leg, and that would be this one. We'll call this jeans fabric. Okay. Now with this hovering above this, now everything I just painted is covered, right? What I can do is I can run a right click and do a clipping mask. Now I'm covering that entire section with my clipping mask. You'll see that it just covers that spot that I painted over. And another thing I can do is I can run all types of different little overlays, or blend modes they're called. Multiply is usually a pretty good one. It really depends on what you're trying to do. Screen is usually really bright. It's what we use for the UVs overlaying. Soft light, hard light sometimes. Okay, and then color dodge. No, not in this particular case. Try linear light. So you can get these different types of blend modes directly over. I'll go with multiply for this one. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead again. I'm going to paste in this one. I'm going to bring over. I'm going to rotate and sort of scale into place. And I have those wrinkles that I wanted at the bottom of the jeans, so even going this way might be a better idea in order to get that sort of effect I was modeling in earlier. So I'll try that and see if that works. And just shift it in just a bit. Don't go too much. And I'll say that's good. And run a right click clipping mask, and then I'll do a multiply again. Alright. On this one I could also go ahead and do some type of rotate, try and simulate those wrinkles I was going for. When I first started this model at the very beginning of the semester, and jean fabric, that's fine, I'm just going to call it jean fabric because it's the same thing. And then again, and this time I might do this like so. And here's a quick little trick to sort of simulate a seamless texture that's not so seamless. I can run an image because I have it like so, and if I do flip vertical, both edges will match. Ooh. On the layer, image, edit, transform, and flip vertical. There we go. And I'll have that sort of simulation of a seamless texture, because both ends of the image will line directly up. Now, again, I can always merge these, but you can run multiple clipping masks. I'll just go ahead and show you. And this one, and you'll see that just lays right over. You can merge them if you want. I just held Control or Shift and selected both layers, and then Control E is to merge layers. And jean fabric, and then I'll just run a, let's see, multiply. So up to this point, I've done the pants. Now I'm just going to go ahead and create a new group, and we'll call this jeans. And now I'm going to create a new layer, and now we're going to go for the shirt. Okay. What do I call this? Pant leg 1 and pant leg 2. So alright, so this will be shirt, chest, and I'll go ahead and grab a. Now again, you don't have to match your references exact, but I'm just kind of doing it just so you can tell. Oh, let me zoom in. I'm a little too far out here. Maybe I can zoom in one more time at least. Alright. So yeah, I'm just trying to match my references closely as possible to help you guys sort of see the start to finish on using references and how useful they are. I couldn't imagine modeling anything without a photo reference, without getting the proper proportions, so on and so forth, or some kind of concept art. Okay, fill that in, and then I'm just going to use my eraser. So instead of using the reveal all layer mask, I'm using the create clipping mask. So we're not masking anything, we're clipping images now. So just a slightly different technique here. Now I still don't believe that this style, I mean, I think it's super effective, especially to get a lot of things done and some cleanup work and things like that, and the tools really do help. However, to get that photoreal sort of texturing, like on the arms and so forth, for the skin, I don't think there's any real better way to get that portrayed without using the projection texturing style. Alright, so then I think I actually already have it open. Shirt fabric. Okay. So I'm going to copy, Control A, Control C, and Control V. And now what I'll do is I'll run that same technique. I'm just going to scale it slightly smaller because I feel like it's just a little bit too big. And maybe even something like that. I'm going to duplicate that layer and then edit, transform, flip horizontal to match those seams in the center. And then what I'm going to do is I'll merge these, Control E, and create clipping mask. And this will be shirt fabric, shirt fabric. And then what we'll do from here is run a blend mode, try overlay, overlay definitely not, multiply, too dark, soft light, too light, hard light, and better but not exactly what I'm going for. No. Color dodge, no. I'll go with multiply, and then I'll set the opacity to be about 50%. That'll give me the texture information that I want, and also it will give me the color that I'm trying to get. Okay. And the other thing about this is, and brush tool, sleeves. The other thing about this is when trying to create a seamless texture, it's better to use the projection texturing in my opinion. When it's working 100%, if you mess with it enough, you're going to get it to work right. You'll notice that it worked really well for the most part, and then as I started to rotate the camera in some spots, it just wasn't grabbing onto the mesh for whatever reason. And that can always cause issues, but if you mess around with it, like I said, it will, you mess around with it long enough, it will start to work. Alright, so there's the one sleeve. Where's the other sleeve? Here we go. And I'll create a new layer. And I like to put a new layer for everything. You don't always necessarily have to, but it always helps if you only want to make changes to maybe one of these sleeves at some point. Maybe add a tear or something and give your texture a little asymmetry when applied to the model, and it can really make your texture stand out more. Alright, so I did sleeves. I'll do sleeve 1 and sleeve 2, and I will paste that in, and then nope, I'm going to keep it going like this. And clipping, and oops, shirt fabric, and again, actually duplicate this one. Oop. This one, excuse me. And I'm gonna Control T and just move it into place and rotate. and then right click, create clipping, and these are going to be at 50% opacity to keep that texture information, but also keep the color that I'm trying to achieve. Alright, so that's my shirts, or my shirt and my jeans there. So now I'm going to hide the UVs on this part, and I'm just going to apply this and show you diffuse map example, and we'll do TGA and save and 32 bits and OK. And then I'm going to go into Maya, and just to show you, over here, we will do our diffuse map example. There it is, and open. And you'll see that down here I have some of that texturing that I was looking for. You'll notice that there is a hard seam here. Okay, so there's gonna be seams, but and you'll see the seams in here. But overall, it gives a pretty good look to it. To get you, definitely to get started too. Looks like I need a little cleanup in here. But for the most part, it's starting to turn out okay. You'll see that I have the seams here. My scaling on the actual fabric is probably offset. This is probably smaller or something than this is, and that's what's causing the discoloration. If you'll notice, this has a I guess I'd say a slightly darker grain, where this is a little brighter. But you can use this technique all the way through. But when getting into texturing the face here, I strongly recommend that using that projection texturing style. Now, pushing forward, and you can use a combination of both tricks here I showed you. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to have to actually texture. If I do this, I'll show you really quickly. Scale -1 and modify, freeze transformations. So what I did here is I took the eyeball, the original one, because my textures weren't exactly the same, by the way, and because I did one and then I did the other, I kind of skewed the scales. So now by doing this, they'll be identical. When I froze transformations, by the way, I reset some options, and you can technically so which eye do I have selected? So that one's okay. This one you'll see is red. Now Maya will be able to read this and display it in the viewport. Depending on what renderer you're using, may or may not work. One of the things that you can do, we're going to flip this just to make it the proper 100% proper way to do it. But tools, move UV shell tool. But what we'll do is we'll use the same exact texture, and then we'll just flip it, and it'll work just fine. So tools, show UV toolkit, under transform, go down here to flip, and now we'll just flip our map, even though it'll be on a separate texture map. Okay, so we're gonna do the eyes now. Come on, there we go. So with these, I'm only gonna need to create one UV map. So in my actual UV editor, one more time, tools, move UV shell tool, I'm going to highlight these, and then image, UV snapshot, and then this, we're going to go find the proper folder for it so I don't misplace any of my references. And in here, okay, oh, not references, textures is what I'm looking for. And this is going to be UVs.tga. Now I'm keeping it 2048 by 2048. I don't feel like changing it, but would it need to be that size? No. It could be smaller, but typically this is just for today's standards, I would say a default size. And you could even say maybe even minimum size now. 1024 is still a pretty standard size, depending on what type of software you're running and things like that. But for our purposes, this is fine. We're going to hit apply and close. In Photoshop, we will now texture the eyes. So I'm going to eyes uv.tga. I've already got an eye texture, and then from here I'm not going to get too detailed with like veins in the eyes and things like that. I'm really just going to sort of get this so it has an eye color. You can do that if you'd like, not required, but here we go. Something like that. I think that's pretty cool. Bring it back up to 100. I always duplicate this and bring to the top. Screen. Where are you, screen? There we go. And now I can see my UVs, and this will be eye color. That's fine. And then this will be white. Eye whites. That's fine. And then I'll grab here and simply go ahead and color this in. Okay. And create a new layer, and I'm just going to create a circle over this one. Stroke black. Come on. And fill color black. And now I'll grab my tool. Okay. And this will be pupil. Okay, and I'll hide this. This is good enough for this. If you want to get into more detail, including like eyes and things like that, or veins and stuff in the eye, or maybe some discoloration with yellows or whatever, you can feel free to do it, but this is totally fine. This will be eye diffuse. and I might have to save that again because I didn't check my alpha channels on that. Eyes, diffuse, and click the alpha channels button. Okay, and save, yes, and okay. And actually I should label these eyes 1 and eyes 2, and what I'll do here is image, rotation, flip, horizontal, and save this out again. TGA, eyes, diffuse 2, that's fine. Okay, I think I forgot the alpha channels again. Eyes, diffuse, TGA 2, alpha channels. Make sure you click that alpha channels, otherwise it's going to be invisible. And click OK. Go back into Maya. I'm going to close out of here. And I'm going to exit this also. Assign new material. This can also be a blend. The eyes do have like a reflective quality to them, somewhat. But I'm just going to bring that down. And actually, if you're going to use a render in Maya 2018, use the Arnold renderer. And I'm just doing this because it's just really just kind of a habit for me to use this. Okay, color. Because I typically use a different renderer than Arnold, but Maya comes default with the Arnold renderer. It is a very popular, famous renderer. Okay, so what I did was I assigned new material, click the color, hit the checker box, go to File, and then locate your this is the first one. Okay, and then this will be assign new material. I'll do a blend, and then color, file. This is going to be eyes 2. Open. And then I will also go ahead and call this RI material. I want to call this one LI material. And then just to make sure, bring down the reflectivity on both of them. And then you can play around with some of these so it's not so shiny. What is this one? 1.42. 1.42. Whoops. That's just this one. 1.42. And this is 0.265. And this was 0.142. 0.142. Okay. Alright, so that covers sort of the basics of texturing. Another thing I'm gonna do is just kind of combine the two and see what I like and so on. So I'm gonna go to my diffuse map. I'm gonna turn on this projection texturing, and eventually I'll get into doing some cleanup on here. But in the meantime, I would say this is pretty good. I'm gonna hide the overall UV. Hide this. Oop. Where is it? Hide this. And then I could go through and do a little bit of cleanup on these, but for now this is fine. And I'll do, I think I actually already have the save. I just have to go through and clean this up a little bit. And then in Maya, when I get a material that I really like, and mine still needs some work, but diffuse. Click OK. So this is the point where I'm at. My guy has eyes now. He's got a face, some cloth, and then the last thing I need to do is do the arms. You can go ahead and you could take photo reference of your arms and try to apply it on there. You could color it in and that same technique, and then try to grab like typically a leather. If you use a leather and kind of keep the scale really small and run an overlay on your skin tone, you kind of get some pretty cool results with that. Fingernails and so on and so forth. Again, you could always take photo reference of your hand, try to project it on there, copy that onto the other hand if you need. But this should give you more than enough of a head start to complete this lab. So if you have any questions, be sure to send me a message on inbox, and I hope you enjoyed watching, and stay tuned for the next ones.